It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior, perhaps to hunt or to avoid detection. But the cloak of darkness couldn't hide the creature in the stunning footage you're about to see.
Bigfoot sneaking behind a woman to jaw-dropping photos that turned a non-believer into a believer. These are never-before-seen images of the elusive creature that went viral overnight. Let's dive in. On a dark, quiet night, a man found himself face-to-face with a nightmare he could never have expected. The man remains anonymous, unwilling to let his identity be public, but his story has spread like wildfire because he captured something horrifying. Clear images of what can only be described as Bigfoot staring straight through his window. How did his story begin? It all started as an innocent escape that quickly turned into a chilling memory he'll never shake. Seeking peace, the man had retreated to a small cabin deep in Washington's wilderness, far from towns, people, and the constant noise of everyday city life. He was searching for calm, hoping the ancient trees and the serene winds would help him recharge. But nothing could prepare him enough for what he was about to encounter. On his second night, as he sat alone by the fireplace, soaking in the silence, a shadow crept up. At first it was nothing, just something catching the corner of his eye. Maybe it was just the woods settling in. At least that's what he thought. But as he got up to close the blinds, his heart dropped.
Oh, there he goes.
Outside, through the cold glass of the cabin window, a face was watching him, and to make matters worse, it wasn't human. The figure's face was massive, framed by tangled, dark hair. Its eyes were deep-set and gave off a faint, unnatural glow, piercing through the night with an unsettling intelligence. The creature stood tall on two legs in the shadows. His skin prickled as he realized it was watching him, studying him. Realizing this, every muscle in his body froze. He knew the stories about the creature and had heard the legends people laughed about. Yet here he was, staring into the face of one of those very tales. Gathering what little courage he had left, he reached for his phone. His hand shook, making the first few photos blurry. But he kept clicking, each flash lighting up the creature's face for a brief, terrifying instant. Despite the flashlight, the creature didn't flinch. Instead, it only seemed more curious, almost entertained by his shaky movements. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature turned and vanished into the darkness beyond the cabin's glow, leaving the man with nothing but his hammering heartbeat and a deep, bone-chilling fear. Following this scary encounter, the man couldn't sleep.
I heard a couple knocks, just put it off as a woodpecker. Didn't think much about it. And then a rock was through that rolled down the hill.
Hours passed, and with every creak and rustle from outside, he imagined the creature coming back. When dawn finally broke, he dared to look at the photos. Most were blurred messes, but a few captured a clear, undeniable outline of something massive and powerful lurking outside his window. Still shaken, he thought of sharing his experience with the world. On the one hand, he feared ridicule from the masses. This is because Bigfoot sightings, after all, often ended with accusations of hoaxes and attention-seeking. But he also knew he had witnessed something rare, maybe even groundbreaking. After much hesitation, he decided to post the pictures online, using a fake name to avoid backlash. He uploaded them to several Facebook groups that focused on the subject, hoping to connect with people who might believe him, and the images went viral. Almost instantly, Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers got hooked by his story, their excitement causing countless debates online. Some claimed this was it, the proof they had been waiting for. People shared his photos across forums, blogs, and social media, and stories poured in from others who swore they had seen the same creature in the forests of Washington. And just like that, the online debates began. Some skeptics examined the photos, pointing out the blurry edges, the lack of a video, and the absence of any other witnesses to confirm the man's claims. To them, the story seemed too perfect, just another tall tale thrown into the mix. But to those who believed, the details only strengthened their conviction. They noted the unique posture of the creature in the specific spot where it stood, and even compared these images to older sightings, finding eerie similarities. They saw these new photos as confirmation.
There's a figure right here, and it definitely appears to be a hominid shape. You see a head, what appear to be shoulders, and 2 arms, and possibly even 2 legs.
Believing they had finally glimpsed the forest's most elusive giant. Despite posting the images, the man refused to get pulled into the chaos. He'd said what he had to say, and he'd shown what he'd captured. He let the photos speak for themselves, watching as his anonymous story took on a life of its own. With the attention the viral post was getting, the questions began. Why was Bigfoot watching him? What had brought this creature so close to a human dwelling? Some speculated that Bigfoot might be a nocturnal creature that got out only at night to avoid human eyes or to hunt in peace. That theory fits perfectly with this sighting, but it also raised the fear factor. The creature had shown itself at night, not out of chance, but by choice. This made people question whether Bigfoot was intentionally stalking the man or it was just a curious encounter. As more people debated, new theories emerged, each one stranger and more chilling than the last. Researchers noted that tales of creatures like Bigfoot in Washington dated back centuries, long before European settlers arrived. The tribes of the Pacific Northwest, including the Salish, Yakima, and Lumi, had spoken of a similar being, a hairy, towering figure they called Sasquatch. According to their lore, Sasquatch was a powerful but reclusive guardian of the forests, a creature respected and feared. For these tribes, the Sasquatch was not merely a tale, but a presence, a protector of nature itself. It stayed hidden, only emerging when disturbed or curious. Could this creature have been watching the man out of sheer curiosity? Or was it something darker, a warning, a reminder that some parts of the forest were never meant to be disturbed? The days passed, but the man's unease remained. Each night, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was just outside, hidden but aware, watching him from the safety of the shadows. He tried to rationalize it, tried to tell himself it was a one-time thing, but the images lingered in his mind. He could see the creature's eyes faintly glowing in the dark, a silent reminder of the night terror he had encountered all by himself. Online, his story continued to grow, splitting people between believers and doubters. But for those who felt the truth in his words, the photos were a haunting glimpse into something they'd only ever dreamed about. Some saw them as proof, others as a mystery, but all agreed on one thing. There was something out there in those woods, something that wasn't supposed to exist, at least according to mainstream science. The man's story, his photos, and the fear that followed him became a part of the legend, in addition to the endless tale of Bigfoot sightings. Yet, to him, it was more than a story. It was a memory, a piece of his life that had been twisted by the unknown. Now, every time he thinks back to that night, a shiver runs down his spine. He remembers the cabin, the silence, the slow, terrible realization that something was watching him. But what scares him most, even in his thoughts, is the fact that he stares at the creature in his eyes. And though he escaped without harm, he knows he'll never truly feel safe again. Not with the knowledge that something out there, something wild and hidden, had chosen to reveal itself to him. As scary as that encounter was, it was not the only account of a witness who had encountered the creature and lived to tell the story. From skeptic to believer. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RMSO, received another evidence report from Virginia. This time, the events of this amazing Bigfoot sighting and encounter happened on the southwest side of Virginia near the Kentucky border. Unlike many other cases, this one came with real evidence. Harley, the witness, managed to record strange vocalizations that echoed through the nights. Even more shocking, he caught the creature on camera one Monday as it watched him from a distance. Harley later found odd tracks about 50 yards from the sawmill where he worked. 2 days after that, he spotted a Bigfoot-like figure watching him from the cliffs behind the sawmill. But how did he find himself here? Harley Owens shared his encounter in a report to RMSO.
I'm just a little astonished to see that it's just casually crossing the stream. Doesn't seem to be the least bit concerned about this loud, noisy vehicle that's approaching it.
He explained that he had photos of footprints and audio recordings of what he believed to be Bigfoot. Harley mentioned he was from Tennessee, but the experience happened in Virginia. He wasn't sure if the group covered that area, but hoped to share his story. Harley's goal was to encourage others to come forward with their encounters, just as he had decided to do. Harley went on to admit that he had initially been skeptical about the existence of Bigfoot, but after he had his first-hand encounter with the creature, nobody would convince him that what he saw that day was nothing but a bear. According to the report, Harley was working up there for almost 2 weeks. This was the location where it happened, in his workplace, and it happened on September 23, 2020, around 1:45 p.m. Additionally, the entire encounter lasted over 5 minutes, but to Harley, who was a skeptic at the time, it felt like it lasted forever. One day, Harley took a break from the sawmill and walked to his service truck to grab a Coca-Cola from the cooler. It had been a busy morning, and he needed to cool off. That week, Harley was working alone. The week before, though, he'd had 2 other guys helping him. As he opened his drink, he suddenly heard a low growling sound. The noise came from the wood line, just a short distance from where he was standing. Harley looked toward the woods, scanning the area, but he couldn't see anything. The strange sound left him uneasy. It was not long before he heard it again, and up on the cliff, peeking out of the brush from behind a tree, there it was. The creature kept avoiding him. Every time Harley tried to look, it would hide itself in the woods. He managed to snap a picture, but something strange happened. His phone suddenly died. To this day, that phone still doesn't work properly. At first, Harley thought it was a bear because of its color, but the way it moved and behaved was nothing like a bear. This detail stood out to him and left him questioning what he had really seen. Harley shared his experience, recalling how he grew up in Tennessee, where bears were common. He mentioned seeing about a dozen black bears at the local dumps near his home. But what he saw that day was different. He described a creature peeking through the trees, appearing curious and intelligent. It didn't act like any wildlife he'd encountered before. Harley was certain that this was nothing like the bears he had known growing up. But the signs of the presence of the creature did not stop there. About an hour after dark, Harley heard strange vocalization that evening. It was probably around 9:30 p.m. As the strange voices and sounds went on consistently, Harley decided to record them. According to Harley, the creature he saw was about 100 yards away, and it gave off the smell of rotting eggs. This was very strange for Harley, since he knew that bears did not give off such a characteristic scent. In the report, Harley admitted to remembering the smell and everything that day.
I spent years looking for explanations of the audio recordings I have and can't find any animal that makes any of the sounds that I have recorded. Sasquatch is definitely here in Texas.
And claimed that it had haunted him to the day he was making the report. It was as if all Harley needed was closure, to be told by someone else that what he saw was real and it was exactly what he thought it was. For this reason, Harley went on ahead to tell RMSO that he had dedicated his life to try and put effort into the Bigfoot phenomenon and hoped to help others open their minds to share their own encounters. He then sent them a recording of the strange vocalizations from his phone, which he had placed on the compressor of his truck while recording that night. In his mind, he hoped that the research group would help him make sense of the voices he was hearing. After closely examining the multiple evidence sent to them by Harley, the RMSO responded to him. In the vocalizations recording, the RMS crew said that they could hear creaking or machinery during parts of the audio, which made them question Harley and what was causing it. Harley explained what happened when he heard the strange vocalizations. He was sitting in his truck, logging everything people had bought and picked up from the week's auction. He also wanted to ensure no one came around after dark before heading to his hotel. He said it wasn't anything unusual for him to be alone in the sawmill late at night. It was just the wind blowing against the side of the old sawmill building. Yet that's not all. Following his encounter with the creature and the strange voices at night, Harley went out to dinner at the local food point and talked to some old-timers he found there. He mentioned what he had been experiencing and told them what was going on. At first, they were quiet for a minute since they noticed that he was not a local, and they did not like speaking to strangers. But then, they referred to them as devil monkeys. In the report, Harley recalls that the owner of the sawmill told him a week prior that the woods had bears, snakes, and coyotes. But there were far worse things than that in these mountains. Hearing the locals tell him about the devil monkeys, Harley was shocked and told them that it sounded sinister and dark in nature. But Harley was so curious to let the name make him end his chase. As if to test the credibility of his story, RMSO asked Harley if anyone else at that worksite or location had had any experiences or sightings that he knew of. In response, Harley said that he knew of nobody else besides him who had had such an encounter. He, however, added that this encounter was permanently recorded in his head, and to Harley, that's something he wasn't used to hearing. He then went ahead to give them a 3D map of the location. As if to get a clear picture of what Harley had seen, the RMSO, knowing that Harley had gone to get his drink and it was daytime, asked him if he was ever able to estimate the height and width of the creature. In response, Harley continued, "Yes, it was outside of the sawmill. We sold logging equipment, loaders, saws, all the things inside the mill and lumber. I'm 6'6" and it was easily bigger than me. I'm about 160 pounds, and it could have snapped me like quickly. I stayed to take stuff out for people to get it loaded on their trailers. That gate was the only way in and out of the place that I'm aware of. I lock up the gate after the auction days and unlock it at sunrise the next day." Looking at the photo of the creature that Harley sent them, the RMSO noticed the elevated walkway from the top of the sawmill. Harley explained to them that from the crane in the 3D map, one could see it to the left of the circle arm. But the questions did not stop there.
Whatever that is on the hill, it is very large. That could very well be a Sasquatch.
When asked how far the tracks were from the sawmill that he photographed and filmed, what he thought when he found the tracks 2 days before seeing the creature and hearing the vocalizations, and what he thought made them, Harley said, "The tracks were about 50 to 100 yards from the sawmill. You can see towards the end of the video where the sawmill is. My initial thought was that it was odd. Who would be walking around barefoot? Then I put my foot beside the track, and it dwarfed mine. I wear a size 12, and I was just wondering about that. I had always heard stories about Bigfoot and the tracks, and that opened my mind to the reality of them being real. Having that first-hand encounter has made me a firm believer." Harley explained how eerie the encounter was, admitting he never would have noticed it if not for the growl. The sound caught his attention, and when he looked, he saw it moving through the brush. He described hearing it growl once, spotting the creature, and then hearing it growl again. What made the moment even more chilling was how clear the movements were. Harley managed to snap a picture of the creature, which he said turned out pretty good. Reflecting on the experience, even the RMSO admitted it was creepy that Harley heard the growl and saw it moving above him. That's when he saw it leaning out and went back behind the brush. Then it turned around and walked back the way it came and walked up the ridge. To Harley, the creature was bipedal, no doubt, and it was walking hunched over. These were the very characteristics of Bigfoot that the RMSO knew. And if it was not Bigfoot that Harley saw that day, then it was definitely a Squatch-like creature. Harley had managed to snap a picture of the suspected Sasquatch before it disappeared into the cover and climbed over the ridge. In the photo, Harley had used his phone's zoom, estimating the creature was over 100 yards away. When the RMSO crew examined the image, they decided to zoom in 200% and run it through several filters. They hoped to bring out more features and details. The team wanted to see if they could uncover anything unusual or revealing in the photo. According to the RMSO, a lot of animals are black because it's a great color for camouflage. This is because black absorbs light and helps the animal to melt into the background, making human eyes and minds think it's just the shadows of the environment. Upon zooming in 350% and running the image through the same filters as before, the crew noticed something. There was a shimmer surrounding the Bigfoot-shaped creature in the image, which may have been caused by light shining through the creature's outer layer of fur. When they took a look at the right side of the head region, they saw what appeared to be the profile of the front of its face and nose. To the RMSO, this was an amazing photo, captured several hours before some eerie, unexplained Sasquatch-like vocalizations were heard just after dark. And yet, there's more. Bigfoot stalks a woman. A woman was on her daily jog along an old logging road. As she made her way down the road, something out of the corner of her eye caught her attention. It looked like a figure was wedged between a tree. She couldn't make out what it was, but it definitely seemed off. Curious and a bit scared, she got a little closer. And then she saw it. A dark figure attempting to blend in between the trees. It was doing a decent job of camouflaging itself, especially considering it was foggy, but it still stood out enough like a broad-shouldered furry blob. Terrified and unsure of what to do, of which the wise thing to do was probably run, but no, she took out her phone and snapped a picture of what she was looking at. The figure was dark in color and, with a face that seemed somewhat human-like, appeared to just be watching her. At first, she wasn't sure if she was looking at the back of its head or the front, but the front of its face looked slightly lighter compared to the top, and the rest of its body had a more grayish tint. Of course, the photo wasn't the best quality, considering the mist, and that the creature was intentionally avoiding her gaze. But it was definitely something fascinating, and if it was what she thought it could be, this was a pretty terrifying moment.